Welcome to the Blue Collar Gold Podcast, the podcast that shows you how to build a world-class service business from the dirt up. And now, your host, Mark Stoner.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Blue Collar Gold Podcast. I want to thank everyone that sent all the messages and text from my last week's podcast and YouTube video. I got a lot of great response from it, and thank you so much. A lot of heartfelt response. I got a lot of emails from people and texts from people who had similar tragedies, and those kind of things. And so I was very grateful. And some people, I got a message from a girl that said, "Hey, thank you for saying that. I've been going through some illnesses with my mother. She's been in the hospital a lot, and I was getting pretty upset with her. I was getting pretty, fed up with the constant kind of sick thing. And she said, you helped me step back from it and realize that I do need to make these good memories and realize that some of these things that are going to make me upset now will maybe be the things I really remember later." So I'm glad that it touched some people. Some people said it was pretty hard to watch. It was hard to do. So I'm glad that all worked out, and thank you for everything. Got lots of emails, gift baskets, cards, tons of stuff. So I couldn't have been more happy and grateful and thankful for all of that. I wanted to talk this week, it's kind of not a repeat, but, I have a lot of conversations, and sometimes they go back over the same thing, but, they just kind of hit you in a different way. And a friend of mine, I'll just leave it, a friend of mine, it's actually closer than that, but was talking to me about starting a new business, and they're pretty, this person is pretty risk averse, very risk averse. And that's why they haven't really started a business to date, because they have a tons of ideas, and actually very good ideas. They've shared them with me, but it's been hard to act on them because what if it fails? What if it goes bad? What if you lose money? What if, all kinds of what ifs. And so they haven't started anything, but now they've got a new opportunity. A new opportunity came about recently. And they were saying, hey, I want to run some ideas by you before I start something. So in this podcast, I want to kind of, break that down, break down the thought process of starting a new business, some of the actual process of starting a new business, of what you need to do, how you need to think about things. And maybe even if you already have a current business, I'm going to say some things that may spin the way you think about what you've already got in place, and you may want to change some of the things that you already hold as true and hold as something that might be sacred. So that's what this episode is going to be about, is the mindset behind starting and getting an idea for, and again, it's one of the mindsets. There's a million mindsets. There's a million ideas. This one is not necessarily right, but it's just kind of how I think about starting a business. So this person, when I've dealt with them, they have a lot of, they're one of the kind of person that wants to help people. They kind of want to have ideas, and they want to see you do them. But in life, I think they feel a little like not satisfied. They want to have more. They want to do something on their own. And I don't hate that. I had an employee this week come to me, and he's worked with me for a couple of years, and he said, hey, I want to do something else. I'm going to give you 2 weeks notice. And I hated to hear it. He's a very good technician, and he's a good person and very considerate. But and I think he had tried to start a business kind of on the side while he worked for me, a different type of business. for me, if you start a business that's like mine, you're instantly fired. So that wasn't the case. But I've learned too that when people start a business on the side, I can pretty much know they're not going to be around that long. I mean, it's almost 100%. If somebody tells me they're starting a business on the side, I know ahead of time I might have a year or 2 years most, and then they're gone. It's just kind of how it works. And I don't hold anybody back. And if they want to do it, do it. That's what this podcast is about. And sometimes people read the books and listen to podcasts and they decide to do it for themselves. And so more power to you. As I said, not everybody should do it. Not everybody's wired to do it. And with this technician, I said, hey, not burn any bridges. And if you decided, you want to come back to work for me, doors open, no problem. But, he's young and he's got a lot of energy and a lot of ideas. And I asked him, what he wants to do. And he said, I really don't know. But what I do want to know is I want to be sitting in your seat. We were sitting in my office and he pointed to my seat. I want to be sitting in your seat. I said, okay, I understand that. What you don't see is the years of hard work, the years of working super late, the years of not making money, the years of paying your dues. And I talk about this, and my story is about, getting my butt kicked, for years in business before I figured out some things that were actually working. And today I think you can probably avoid some of those, but you're going to have to really face some hard stuff starting your own business. But if you want to do it and you've got to do it, then by all means do it. So, this other person that wants to start a new business has an opportunity to have some backing to start it. It's a moderate amount, but it's still enough that, so there's not a huge risk, but they also don't want to lose money. So we were coming up with a lot of ideas. And so one of the thoughts on starting your own business is, do you want to make something for people or do you want to do something for people? Those are two kind of basic things. I also don't believe that you have to be fully passionate about whatever it is you're going to do. I think you have to just say, hey, I can do that. I believe I can do it. And I believe I can make money at it. And you need to prove that you can make money in your mind, at least. How am I going to make money? How much money can I make? And then, is the business scalable? How do I do it without me? Or, how can I scale more to make enough money at it? Because, again, I'm big on service-based businesses. So my business is I'm going to do something for someone and get paid for it. And I think those are some of the easier businesses to start in general because you don't have as big of an outlay. Now, I'm also in the business where I'm going to make something for somebody. So I started a chocolate company, which I mentioned last week, and we got our neon signs up this week. Super excited. We're going to make something for somebody. Well, when you're going to make something for somebody, for me, it was a pretty good amount of equipment I had to buy. I have to pass certain codes. I have to build stuff that will make something. Now, if you whittle things or you can carve things or make things out of clay or whatever, that might be different. But buy something, that can make something. To me, there's a lot more investment in making something for somebody rather than doing something. In some ways, I look back at, say, if you're going to get into duct cleaning, you want to be a duct cleaning truck. Those big vacuum trucks, that thing might be $100,000. So I might be stretching it, but in general, in my business, chimney cleaning, I spent about $3,000 to $5,000 on, this is 20 or 35 years ago. And I got started. Didn't include the truck. Now you could probably start a service business like mine for probably, $30,000 to $50,000 would really get you started and get you a good truck and get you enough money to live on and for a little bit, and also a marketing budget and those kind of things. But just in the general thought, we were trying to rack our brains of what to do. But really what this podcast is about was, I just thought about some things that were right around this person that wasn't such a big risk. And I'll tell you what they are. One, the person's father is is a beekeeper. He's got bees, but he's always done it as a hobby. And he knows how to do bees, but it's just kind of a hobby. I don't know how many hives they've got, but he makes a good amount. He has the honey at fairs, festivals, sells it to family, just different small time stuff. They also have these bees on a farm that has a beautiful old farmhouse. And, it's been in the family. So I was just trying to help them think about a new business. And I thought, well, what about what's right in front of you that's not made into a business, that is a hobby you could enjoy with your father? He knows about it, but he's always done it on a small scale. Can we scale that up? And then also the other thing is, the farm, you could have that farmhouse be like an Airbnb or some type of a wedding destination or a reception. You could have a bee, a honey experience there at the farm when people are interested in that. And she kind of had a business right there. I said, what if you took part of that money that you are going to be using for your business and reinvest it back into what you already have to scale up the operation? Now, she immediately came with, some scenarios why it wouldn't work. One, what if the bees have a bad year? What if I've got all these commitments and honey can be a crop that can go up or down? And what about that? I'm really worried about that. And I said, well, to me, that's not a legitimate worry. Because any business you get in can have its ups or downs. You can have, I'm in the chimney business. What if we have a super hot, dry winter where it barely gets cold? I'm in the South. That can happen. People don't use a fireplace. Another big part of what I do is we do a lot of restorations on chimneys. Well, that happens when it rains a lot. And when it rains a lot, I get a lot of work. When it doesn't rain a lot and it's in the middle of summer in the chimney business, that can be a pretty rough time. I'm like, well, that's not a good enough reason to not do this business. That can happen any business you've got. And let's just say you have less honey one year, then the price goes up. And you have a influx of honey and you got more, maybe you can take the prices down, or you sell more honey and bankroll that and budget that for maybe a bad year. I'm pretty excited, kind of change the subject, but in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to have some guests. Next week, I've got Allison Reynolds coming in, who's a fantastic accountant and CFO person I work with. She's going to give some really great advice on recession-proofing your business and just some general service business, great advice. And then the next week, I'm going to be on the road with my COO, Kent Wesley, and he's going to talk about hiring and some of the roles of a COO. We've got to go visit some of our branch offices, so we're going to have some time together. I'm going to get him on a podcast. Okay, little announcement. But that being said, the point of her not wanting to start a business because she could have a bad crop was, to me, not good enough. I said, I need another excuse. I need another reason why you can't see this working. And so she really couldn't come up with it other than she would hate to have commitments to people and then she couldn't fulfill them. And I said, I get that. I understand, but that's not a good enough reason. I think a better reason is it's cost prohibitive to scale it up. The cost of the equipment to really go up to scale it up. Is that a problem? Can you work with your father? Is that he knows the business? He's wanting to do something with them. Can you work with him? To me, those are more real questions than, hey, I could have a bad year. Hey, every business can have a bad year. So please don't let that, in most cases, be a deciding factor. Should you worry about it? Sure. Are we worried about it in the chimney business? Absolutely. You got to put money to the side. This has been a banner a couple of years. We got to put money to the side in case we don't have a banner year, which is the natural ebbs and flows of a business. So she's like, okay. So I said, what other problems are there? And she said, it's pretty labor intensive. I said, okay, I get that. I bet there's technology that you can do that reduces that, but it's still probably going to be pretty intensive labor wise. Is that okay? And she said, she wanted to do the work and get, be out there with her dad, and could be family, could pass it on. I said, I like that. There's a business up kind of where I'm from in Indiana, and they do goat milk. And I think the business is called Goat Milk Stuff. If you look it up, Goat Milk Stuff, Scottsburg, Indiana. And they've taken goat milk and done, amazing stuff with it. Goat milk ice cream, goat milk candles, goat milk soap, goats as part of the walking through. And it's a whole thing around this goat milk. It's a big experience. I'm like, well, could you do that with a farm and the bees? Could it be a really cool educational thing with a store there of, beeswax, everything, candles and bombs and lip stuff. And, there's so many things you can do with beeswax. You can flavor the honey. You can have hot honey. You can have, all kinds of stuff with honey candy. It's endless on what you can do, and it's local, and it's got a real story behind it. That's what I loved about her, about the whole thing. As I said, it's real. It's very real, and it's got a real story. You've got a real family tree here. You've got, a lot you can draw from, and it's not as big of a risk as some other businesses that you know nothing about and you're going to try to learn and be an expert at. So I don't know that she was totally loving the idea, but she started to see it in a different way. I said, your dad may not necessarily be the right person to ask if it can be sold up or if it can be scaled up, because he sees it at a certain level, and he's got it at that level for a reason. I know a gentleman in the chimney business who started a business a long time ago, he and his brother, and they kept it a really small operation. When his sons took it over, they saw the business in a whole different way, and they are really, really scaling the business up a lot. Tristan and Dylan Raycroft, they are some younger guys that are seeing the opportunity that either their dad didn't see, or that they just see differently. Their dad set them up with a good platform, a good base, and they want to just blow it up. Another friend of mine, Rob Lindeman, his dad set up a chimney company. He's second generation. He took it over and is blowing it up. I'm first generation. I started from zero, but maybe down the road, my kids will want to help move it to the next level. So in this case, starting a new business, in a way, she almost has second generation, in a way, knowledge that she can build on, which is a lot safer. So if you're thinking about starting a business, look around you. My friend Britt, who's just started a home inspection service. Well, why did he start a home inspection service? Because if you followed him on Facebook at all, he was always building and fixing everything. On his house, he's very mechanically minded. And so why not use a lot of that experience? He's very good talking to people. He's funny. And he's pretty entrepreneurial too. So he saw an opportunity in something that he was already really handy at to go into home inspection. And he just launched it. He just launched that business, and it's Green Up's Inspection Connection in Indianapolis. And I love his tagline, team up with Green Up. And I loved it. So again, if you're looking, look at something like in the chimney business. I've said it before. I did not think I'm going to love sweeping chimneys, and that's going to be the main way I make money. So you don't have to love it. I don't love getting dirty. I don't love being, risking my neck, getting up high and coming into people's houses and, having to protect all their property from me sooting up their house and rolling equipment in and out and all that. That's not. Yes, that's the business. And, one of the first things I heard was, you better be okay getting your hands dirty in this business. Well, of course I was. But it's not important that I love that. I don't know that anybody that started the chimney business said, yes, I love soot and creosote and getting dirty. what they love is being an expert at something that very few people are an expert at. They love helping people. They love the idea of, if I do my job right, you might not burn your house down, or you might, you could preserve life or property or something like that. And I can make money at it at the same time. So look around you. And this is the same if you already have a business, because there's businesses all around you all the time. Opportunity is absolutely everywhere inside your business. There's all kinds of stories like Kingsford Charcoal. Kingsford Charcoal was started from, I think it was Henry Ford's brother-in-law or some type of relative from Henry Ford. They had all these pallets that were building up, and it was the waste from the pallets from, I believe, the car industry. He ended up turning into charcoal, and that became Kingsford. There's probably a business in whatever you throw away. If you're already in business, whatever you throw away is another business sometimes. For us in the metal fabrication, all of the waste that we generate, we found another way to take that waste, and we bought a machine that can turn it into other things. So there's a whole nother business inside our business of what was the waste of a byproduct. When you look at Jack Daniel's, is really close to where I live. If you go down to Jack Daniel's and see how they run this business, there's almost no waste. I mean, absolutely every single thing in that process is used and reused. And at the end, it ends up being a type of mash they've already got all the alcohol out of it. What do they do with it? They turn it into feed for the cows, and they give it to the farmers or sell it to the farmers super cheap. So it's completely recycled into the business. And they've made a business out of every single step of the process. So back to the original story. I said, let's look at bees. Let's look at that being a business. And I want you, and here's the key. Here's one of the keys. If you're going to get into business, you do have to have a healthy, pessimism to some things. But once you get going, you've got to be super optimistic. You got to be so optimistic to get through the problems that you're going to encounter. And I talk about launching our chocolate business, and problem after problem. I mean, today we had to fill out a form for the Department of Agriculture that we had to draw a flow chart for every step of the process of making bonbons and caramels, like a flow chart to show every step of the way. We painted the building on the inside, and we painted the electrical box that has the fuses in it, and now we found out you can't paint the electrical box. It can't be painted. We found out we've doing all the work, and we needed to seal the concrete. We've got all of our equipment now on top of it. Now we got to move all of our equipment out and seal the concrete. It's one thing after another. We put up our neon sign, which we got approval from the city. We got approval from the HOA. When we bought the building, everything was approved for it. We showed them the signage. Everything was great. Super excited. We put it up last night. I drive up to the sign. There's a guy taking pictures of it. And I know it wasn't taking pictures of it because he loved it. He was taking pictures of it because he's going to complain. And, I told my daughter that no matter what you do, there's going to be people that love you and people that hate you. For anytime you push and change anything, there's going to be people that push against you. So it's a rare day if you can start a business and somebody's not mad. And so back to the original story, I don't know that people are going to be mad about her starting a honey business and any of that, but you never know. So I encourage her to just really look at what's around you. Secondly, on that business was that farmhouse. She's got access to it. It could be a Airbnb. It could be, it's going to have to take some work, put some work into it. It could be a wedding destination for sure. Wedding photography. It's beautiful out there. They could do a few small things to that and then start advertising, a marketing budget to put it out there. So I just encourage her to look around. Now, I'm going to give another piece of advice that I heard a while ago that made a lot of sense to me, and I've always tried to abide by it now. Was if you're naming your business, if you're coming up with a new business, and I filed for a business trademark on a couple things recently. But whenever you're coming up with a business name, one of the ideas may be for you to come up with a word that's not a word. So because it's easier to trademark it, it's easier to separate yourself. A lot of times the .com is available if it's kind of a different word. And so a perfect example is the name of my chimney company. It's called Ashbusters. That's not a real word. It's a word I made up, and it seems like a real word, but it's not. My franchise is called Servent, Chimney Inventing. Servent is not a real word. Poppy and Peep is our chocolate company. Those are two words put together. But the thought is, because I'll give you an example. Our franchise was going to be called Fireplace Safety USA was going to be the name of the franchise. And we had everything worked for us in the name Fireplace, clearly what we're doing. Safety, which is what we're about. USA, we're going to be a nationwide franchise, ideally. We go to the office, to the trademark office, and they're like, there's nothing here you can trademark. You can't trademark Fireplace, definitely not Safety, definitely not USA. You're screwed. And I think I mentioned this before, but I said, well, what about Apple? And they're like, well, it's Apple, so too late. So we started working on different names. So in your business, I've had to change the name of my company once. I came to Nashville, asked Chimney Master. There was already a guy here, Chimney Master. I changed to Ashbusters. No big deal. I started off the chocolate business as Chocolate Moonshine of Tennessee. We had a business pivot. Now it's Poppy and Peep. Who knows? We're going to look back on that as a brilliant move, or, well, that was temporary and didn't work out. But don't be afraid to change your name or even parts of your name. I consult with a lot of chimney companies that used to have Chimney Sweep in their name. And a lot of them still do. And if you're branded that way, great. But I feel that Chimney Sweep in your name is a bit limiting. I think in our industry, we're going to have, we're going to sweep less and less creosote out of chimneys, and we're going to be doing a lot of other things. It's going to be more gas service. It's going to be more restoration. Of course, some chimney cleaning for sure, but inspections are going to be bigger. Liners, caps, making the chimney work, making the chimney not leak, making the chimney more functionable, but not necessarily sweeping the chimney. So if sweep is in your name, that could be a limiting factor. In your business, let's just say you're a house cleaner, but you have other things that you can do. Maybe instead of, for a name Molly Maids, maybe that's good, but maybe it's Molly's House Services, Molly's Enterprises, Molly, could you, let's say you start mowing lawns with that. Could you have another name? Another example, I have a metal fabrication company. It's called Top Hat Metal. Top Hat's one word. It's not totally my own word, but I needed to get it away from Ashbusters, because if we're going to sell separately, it doesn't make sense for somebody to say Ashbusters chimney caps. So we changed the name of the company to have its own entity. I've got another business that's going to launch. It's part of the metal fabrication business, but it's got its own name and separation. So to wrap this podcast up, if you're starting a business, look around to what you've already got around you. Look around to what might be a hobby that you could turn into a business. Look around at what you might have expertise at or access to that could be a business if you really blew it up. 2, if you start something, you've got to be positive. You've got to have a positive outlook. I told the person starting it, she was, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that. So you need to stop with that word worried. You got to quit saying that out loud. If you keep saying you're worried about everything, of course, things are going to come true, and you're going to have problems, and you're going to say, see, I told you, I was worried about that. There it is, true. For me as an entrepreneur, I just roll through it. I'm like, absolutely, yep, that happened, but we're still moving. And I think I'm teaching my daughter that thought process of getting through that optimism that you have to have. And then lastly, if you're naming your business, or you're starting a new business, or you're looking at changing your business, update it. Update it with the times. Don't be something that everybody has done. Don't have a name that's super, common, like American, or I know I got some friends that have American chimney sweep and all that. But if you're starting a new business, I just challenge you to come up with something. Now, my friend Britt Greenup, we went through an exercise with his name. Inspection Connection was part of it. And then I said, but your name is really strong. Greenup is hard to forget because it's got a color in it. It's got a direction in it. I mean, I like the name Greenup because you just remember it. And you're going to remember it too on this podcast. You listen to it, you won't forget the name of his business. And I've mentioned it twice. So that's powerful in naming a business. So guys, that's my podcast. Again, I want to thank everybody for everything this week. Also, quick update, my heart is doing well. I worked out twice this week, no problems. The surgery was a complete success. I have a little bit of a kind of a crazy looking bruise on my leg, but other than that, it absolutely worked. I feel like I'm getting back to myself. I feel like I can feel myself coming back and feel better about things. So thank you for bearing with me and going through that part of my life. So, all right, guys, that's my time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Blue Collar Gold Podcast. Please subscribe on iTunes or any place that you listen to podcasts. More information is also available at markstoner.com.